Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another episode of Chess Chat, a program brought to you live from the Rollstone Bank and Trust studio at Fitchburg Access Television. I am George Meridanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club, the second oldest chess club in Massachusetts, meets every Wednesday evening from 6 to 10:30 in rooms 163 and 165 of the McKay campus complex at the university. And with me for this 196th episode of Chess Chat is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg, recipient of FATV's prestigious Boulder Award in 2009, and now celebrating his 18th anniversary, 18th straight year, directing Chess Chat on FATV. And assisting Darren in the control room, and as well as on camera, is our longtime and fellow resident, Brian Bigelow. Brian, by the way, prepares our set for every episode of Chess Chat, and actually does a lot of work for Chess Chat, and he's been doing it for many years. But across from me is my longtime associate and trusty colleague, Wachusett Chess Club statistician, a very active tournament and match player, a chess author, a chess photographer, my co-host, Dave Kuchar of Westminster. Hello, Dave.
Hello, George.
Well, Dave, this is a very special Chess Chat program because exactly 2 weeks ago today was the closing ceremony of a major chess event in the world.
Yep.
It was the 45th Chess Olympiad in Budapest, Hungary. Now, this Olympiad is an event that is organized, or actually held under the auspices of the World Chess Federation, FIDE, F-I-D-E, which is it's known by its French acronym FIDE,
Yep.
which stands for the Fédération Internationale des Échecs, which was established 100 years ago, July of 1924. We've done a program on that. But this year, they held the 45th Olympiad in Budapest, which, by the way, held an unofficial Olympiad many years ago. You know, in 1924, when FIDE was established, it was established at the Summer Olympics, and chess players were invited to participate in the 1924 Summer Olympics, but they never played.
And that was in Budapest?
No, that was in Paris.
Oh, okay.
And of course, this year, the 2024 Olympics was held in Paris.
Right.
But the chess players never were invited back for the 1928 Olympiad 4 years later. So what they did is they held their own. They said, okay, well, I guess we're not going to be invited back. So in 1926 in Budapest, they held an Olympiad, which was unofficial though.
Was unofficial.
It was not official. It was unofficial, and Hungary won it. Hungary won it. But the first official Olympiad was not held until 1927 in London. That was the first official one in 1927. And they had 16 teams, and Hungary won it.
Okay.
So anyways, they've had actually many. What happened was some of them were 1 year apart, but only starting in 1950, after World War II, did they hold these Olympiads every 2 years.
Okay.
But once they started holding them, starting in 1950, in Dubrovnik, Yugoslavia, was they held it, the Soviet Union dominated.
Right.
The USSR throughout the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, right up until the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yep.
They actually won every single year.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, this year's Olympiad, I want to tell our viewers how many teams played, in the Olympiad. If I dig it up here, they actually had the Olympiad was held in two Olympiads. There was the Open Olympiad. A lot of people confuse it and call it the Men's Olympiad. No, it's the Open, because if there were a female player strong enough, they would play
Right.
on the Open Olympiad.
Yep.
And they also had a women's Olympiad simultaneously being held. But they had actually in the Open Olympiad, they had 197 teams, which was a record. This was a record-breaking Olympiad. And they had 197 teams, 975 players in that Open Olympiad, and then they had 183 teams in the Women's Olympiad for a total of 909 female players for a total of 380 teams. That's a lot of teams, but the total number of players was 1,884. Now, what facility can accommodate,
But they did. I mean, typically, right? They have to be. There's so many players. They have to be separated.
Yes.
Usually, but
Usually they play.
this one was in a single.
They played this in a single, humongous sports and conference center. It was called SEMA, the SEMA Sports and Conference Center. It's a well-known sports center in Budapest, and they accommodated everybody. In the same venue. I mean,
So what you're saying, so it's like 1,800 players or so. You're saying?
Yeah, it was over close to 1,900 players.
Wow.
That's a lot of players. Yeah. So that's what they had this year. And again, it was a record breaker. Again, the Olympiad started September 10th. It ended September 22nd. But the closing ceremony was the following day, September 23rd, which was exactly 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
All right. Now the question is, who won it? Who won both the Open Olympiad as well as the Women's Women's Olympiad? Well, let's go. Actually, Darren actually has a photo courtesy of chess.com. In fact, the photos we're going to show are all courtesy of chess.com. We're going to show a team that says historic gold. And what does it say? India wins
the 45th FIDE Chess Olympiad.
Right. And you see actually the photos of the 5 players. The team consisted of 4 players plus 1 reserve. There's an alternate player. So they're there, and we have another photo of these same players, Indian players, who actually competed here. And I'm going to give you their names if I can find them here. Well, actually, they're there. Don't we actually have
the names are underneath.
Are you able to read those names? I'm going to read them right now.
All right.
I'm going to look, for example, at the far right. That looks like Grandmaster Gukesh Domaraju. Is that Gukesh?
That is Gukesh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read the names of the Indian players. But Gukesh is their top player. He played on board 1. So Gukesh played on board 1. But by the way, Grandmaster Gukesh Domaraju is going to play next month, starting in November 25th, for the World Championship against the reigning world champion, Chinese Grandmaster Ding Lijian in Singapore. So that should be an exciting match. And we'll cover that. Chess Chat will cover that. We'll have that. Now, again, I want to give the other names of the players. On board 2 was Ramesh Babu Pragnananda. These names are tongue twisters, but I'll try it. Board 3 was Arjun Ergaisi. Board 4 was Vidit Gujarati. And their reserve player was Pentala Hari Krishna.
Right.
Now, there's another photo. Is there another photo of the Indian players? Actually, if there is, we'll show it. But that was the Indian. There they are, yes. And now where is Gukesh?
Gukesh is in the middle.
He's in the middle. Actually, he's got the trophy above his head. So Grandmaster Gukesh Domaraju has a trophy. The gold. They won the gold. They won the gold, and they have to be congratulated. The United States was the favorite, not by much, because the average rating was a difference of four points. And if I look up actually what the average rating was, I'll let our viewers know that if you give me time. Yes, India, the Indian team had an average rating of a 2753. The United States team had an average rating of 2757.
Okay.
Now, our chess chat viewers will probably ask, well, how did the U.S. team do? If they were the favorites to win, but they didn't win, how did they finish? They came in second place. They came second place. Now, again, here are photos of all 3 top teams. We have the Indian team in the middle with their flag, the Indian flag. You see to the left now the U.S. flag, with the U.S. team on the left.
Yep.
Now, what is the flag that's being shown on the right there? That actually is the country of Uzbekistan. Yeah. Uzbekistan came in, won the bronze medal.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive. So India won the gold, United States won the silver medal, and Uzbekistan won the bronze medal. Okay, now we have a photo.
We should also say our number 2 player, Hikaru Nakamura, did not play. You know,
yes.
If he had been playing.
By the way, for the second Olympiad in a row.
Oh, really?
He did. In fact, he did not play in this 45th Olympiad, but he also did not play in the previous one.
Oh, really? Okay.
So he would have made a difference. I think having Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura on the team would have made a big difference. Okay, now here's a very good photo to show of the U.S. team, and in fact, I see who they are, but I'll dig out a card that tells me more about them. If you give me what time. Here we go. Okay. Now, on the far left, starting from left to right, that looks like Grandmaster Lanier Dominguez Perez.
Yep.
He's born in Cuba, Lanier, okay. He's 41 years old. Now, who's sitting next to him? Leaning over to him is Grandmaster Levon Aronian, who actually is an Armenian. He was born in Yerevan, Armenia. He played in the Olympiad for Armenia. What's he doing on the U.S. team? Well, what he did back in February 2021, he announced his intention to change his affiliation from the Armenian Chess Federation to the U.S. Chess Federation. Mm-hmm. So now he is a U.S. player.
Yep.
He plays now for the U.S. and he was playing on board 4. Actually, his board was in this Olympiad was board 4. Dominguez, who's sitting on the left, actually played on board 3.
Okay.
Now, who's sitting next to Levon? You see, that looks like that is actually Ray Robson.
The young guy, yeah, Ray Robson.
That's Ray Robson. Yes, actually, he's the tallest one, by the way.
Yeah.
And Ray Robson actually was born in Guam. In Guam, yes.
Really?
Born in Guam, 29 years old, and he was the reserve player.
Right.
Yeah, he was a reserve player. Now, sitting next to Ray Robson with the glasses, I see Grandmaster Wesley So. Mm-hmm. Wesley So was born in the Philippines. Yeah, and he's by the way, he's going to have a birthday coming up. This coming Sunday, Wesley So is going to turn 31. His birthday, 31st birthday is coming up this Sunday. And now sitting next to Wesley So is board number 1 for the U.S. team, a 3-time U.S. champion, Fabiano Caruana, Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana. Yep. By the way, Wesley So was also a 3-time U.S. champion. Okay. So that's our U.S. team. They won the gold medal. By the way...
Well, I guess we can say one thing. Fabiano was the only one who was born in the U.S., right?
Yes. I should point out, yes. I'm glad you reminded me. Fabiano...
It's the only one.
No, Fabiano was born in Miami, Florida,
yeah, right.
But grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Yep. Yeah. So among those players, yes, as we go through, yes, Fabiano, our 3-time U.S. champion, is the only one who was born, actually, in the United States. Yeah. All right. So... now, do we have any other photos that we can show of the other photos of the men? Let's go to the women.
Okay.
Now, the Indian team won the Open Olympiad.
Right.
So, what happened in the Women's Olympiad? Well, here it is. Historic goal for the Indian. India wins the women's 45th.
Yep.
And that's the first time that's ever happened, where a country has won both the Open Olympiad and the Women's Olympiad.
Really?
That's never been done before.
The Soviet Union never did it?
They never did it. Wow. To my knowledge, no, they never did. I'll be correct. If someone notifies me that I've uttered a mistake, I'll let our viewers know. But anyways, there is now the Indian women's team, and again, I'm not going to give their names. You can see their names,
right,
for those who have very sharp sight here. But do we have actually another photo of the Indian women's team members? Yep, there they are. We have to congratulate them. By the way, but they were expected to win. You know why? They had a superior average rating for their team, way above all the other teams.
Okay.
Now the question is, how did the U.S. women's team do?
Right.
If they, they weren't. By the way, U.S. women's team was not favored. It was the Indian women's team favored to win. Now we have a photo of the three. Now we have the three women's teams. We have the Indian women's team in the middle. They won the gold. The U.S. team actually on the right. They didn't win the silver. But let's go to the team on the. Before we go back to the U.S. women's team, the team on the left won the silver medal. And what team is that? Well, that team happens to be Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan came in second place in this year's women's championship, Olympiad, I should say. And the U.S. team is on the right, and they came in and won the bronze medal. Yeah.
And we can say standing in front was Judith Polgar.
Yes, that's Judith Polgar.
From Hungary.
And by the way, is there not actually, I see among the men, there are two men standing with the women there in that photo. In fact, on the far left, holding up the camera, taking a photo of the team, is our own Carissa Yip.
Yep.
Champion of the Washington Chess Club at Fitchburg State University in 2014 when she was 10 years old.
Yep.
She played board 2. But I do see a former men's world champion standing there.
Yeah.
And that's Vishy Anand of India.
Yep.
And behind him is the other man, is the captain of the U.S. women's team, Melih Khachiyan, who's an Armenian who actually has been playing for the United States now. He's a captain, was captain of the team, and he's a grandmaster who actually lives in California. But I'm going to go through the members of the U.S. women's team, because I'm sure our viewers would like to know who among the women played. All right. There's Carissa Yip, as you say, on the far left.
Yep.
And again, I'm just going to read off the names because I don't know which way they're standing.
Yep.
Playing on board 1 for the U.S. women's team was international master Gulruh Begim Tokhijanova. Yeah. And by the way, she was born in Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
Okay. She's 25 years old. And Carissa, as I say, by the way, Carissa won an individual medal, a gold medal, for playing on board 2. She had the best rating performance of any player in the Women's Olympiad on board 2. So they awarded her, FIDE awarded her a gold medal for her performance. Yeah. And by the way, she is the reigning U.S. women's champion.
Okay. Yeah. So we switched to the.
Okay. Now here's a photo of Alice Lee on the left. Alice Lee, who played board 4 for the U.S. women's team, who, by the way, is going to have a birthday coming up next Sunday. She's going to turn. Let's see, 15 years old. She's 14 years old on that photo, but she's going to have a birthday coming up. And Chris is actually on the right. So they're two members.
So they're each holding the bronze team medal.
Yes. Alice won actually a silver medal on board 4.
Right.
And Carissa won the gold medal on board 2. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
All right. So now I think we're at the end of photos, but I think we actually have, you found a very interesting clip courtesy of Chess Base.
Yep.
Carissa Yip was interviewed at the Olympiad. So I'm going to have Darren actually show this very short clip. It's a portion of a longer interview, but we're going to show a short portion of that clip right now from the Olympiad.
What kind of player type are you? Aggressive, defensive?
Probably more aggressive and dynamic than solid.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favorite chess club?
Probably Massachusetts Chess Club. It was the first club I played in as a kid. Yeah, it's in Massachusetts.
One last question. What is...
All right, so that was a clip of Carissa, and the interviewer asked her what her favorite chess club was.
Favorite chess club, yeah.
And she said the Washington Chess Club.
Yep.
And again, that is where here, right in Fitchburg, at Fitchburg State University, that's where she honed her skills and became U.S. women's champion.
Birthplace of champions.
Birthplace of champions right here at Fitchburg State University. By the way, Fitchburg State University has to really be proud of itself because it is among all the chess clubs that host or where there is a chess club. And there are a number of universities and colleges in the United States that actually have chess clubs. But the Wachusett Chess Club in Fitchburg has the best weeknight attendance of any chess club at any university and college in the nation. So we're very proud of Carissa actually playing on the Olympiad, and also she'll be defending her title, starting at the end of this week. Okay.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we want to actually present to our viewers a game that Carissa played from the Olympiad.
Yep.
And she played it against a former women's world champion, Anna Ushanina of Ukraine, she became women's world champion in 2012.
Okay.
And held it for 1 year. Yeah, but again, she played a very strong player and beat her in this Olympiad. And we're going to present this game to our viewers right now. And Anna Ushanina had white in the game we're going to present.
Yep.
And how did Anna open the game against Carissa?
She opens with D4.
A very good opening move. We presented it numerous times in the past. Now, what is normal against D4, the possibilities, the good possibilities, is play D5 is good.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that. Knight F6 is also good. Both of these moves, D5 and Knight F6, actually stop white from putting another pawn in the center.
Right, and I'd say probably 90% of games start with one or the other.
One of the, yes. Among all the games, yes, I agree with you. Most of the games either start with the D5.
Oh, do you want me to read the
yes.
what Carissa wrote?
Yeah, well, let me actually. Yes, right. Before, why don't you actually read what Carissa? By the way, Carissa actually has extensive commentary on the game that she provided us. Yeah. So what did Carissa write about this?
So about this game, she said, this was the 10th and penultimate round of the 45th Women's Chess Olympiad. The U.S. team was tied for third, along with 8 other teams, including our opponent, Ukraine. The team had suffered a few setbacks, an upset loss against Mongolia, the inability to convert winning situations against Armenia and India. But we were 2 points, 1 win, behind the current leader, Kazakhstan, and to have any chance at the podium, we needed to win. My own tournament had gone very well so far. I was at a 2,600 performance and leading the race for the Olympiad gold on board 2. The game was a crucial test. The black pieces against a former women's world champion, Anna Ushanina.
Okay. All right. So, again, as Carissa points out, this was played in the penultimate round, round 10 of an 11-round event. And again, Ushanina played D4. And what Carissa responded with was G6. So that must have come,
Yeah, do you want to read what
let me read actually what she said. She said, this is Carissa's own words now, a bit of a surprise for Ushanina. Usually, I play the traditional King's Indian defense with Knight F6, as we pointed out. And early in the tournament, had also played the Queen's Gambit Accepted, which is playing D5, having white play C4,
and then
offering
taking
a
the
gambit.
pawn. Yep.
But the G6 move order gives black some more flexibility, but has the drawback of allowing an E4, D4 pawn center with no C4 pawn included. However, I was sure that even if my opponent went for a typical modern defense setup, she would have some trouble proceeding with an attack. The modern, as she says, the modern defense isn't as clear-cut as it seems. Okay, so it is now Ushanina's second move. So what does she do?
And she plays E4, just like Carissa said. So basically, if your opponent allows you to take the center, you should take the center.
Right.
You can't go wrong.
And Carissa's more than willing to give white the center with E4. All right. So Carissa carries out her plan after playing G6 to fianchetto the bishop on F8 to G7. That's her move. Logical move. Okay. So as Carissa points out, we're playing now a modern, it's a modern defense. It's called a modern defense. So it's now how can white continue it? What are the possibilities for white before we actually play? I
guess typical moves are either knight to C3 or knight to F3.
Yeah, either one of those
are
knights.
The most common.
Developing a piece, a minor piece. Okay. What Ushanina played was...
But among the two, knight to C3 is the most common, so she plays knight to C3, developing a knight.
Right. Okay. It's Carissa's move.
Yep.
She plays the pawn to D6. All right? So that opens up the diagonal for this light square bishop.
Yep.
All right. It is now Ushinina's fourth move. What does she do?
She plays bishop to e3, developing the bishop, adding a defender to the d4 pawn,
All right, bishop e3.
possibly preparing to castle queenside.
All right. All right. It is now Carissa's move. She plays in this position the pawn to a6. Now, is that actually a preparatory move for something later?
Yeah. So she's preparing to push this pawn
To b5.
to b5,
It supports the advance of the pawn to b5.
and then
Oh, and
advance it again, kick the knight.
Yes, attack.
and the bishop could come here, attacking the
All right.
the pawn.
So, now what is been played numerous times in this position as white is what? Let's not play Anna Ushinina's move now. Let's play what has actually been seen before, like
I think we said queen d2 is the
Yes,
is the most often played.
that is the most
and
often.
then white castles queenside after
exactly.
that.
So that's the most popular. Queen
The
d2
most popular.
is more popular. But what Ushinina played was what?
Is a very uncommon, very aggressive.
Yes.
g4.
Right. Okay. All right. So it's Carissa's move, and the way she continues here, she plays this knight on b8 to d7. Okay, that's where that's going. All right. All right. She's not going to bring the c6. She brings it to d7,
Yep.
which is all part of it. So how does Ushinina continue? What is
She
her?
continues very aggressively. h4.
Now, does she have a threat? What is White's threat here by playing h4? Is it to advance that pawn to h5?
I think so. And just rip apart
Yes.
the king side.
So that is a serious threat. h5 would be very uncomfortable for black, and because of that, Carissa plays h6. Now I'm going to have you read actually.
Yeah. So her comment was right now black is just parrying threats and planning to meet h5 with g5 to lock up the center. So she's saying
Yes.
if Anna pushes here, she's planning to do that and just lock up the king side.
All right. So that's why she played h6. Yeah.
Yep.
To anticipate that. All right. It is now White's move. It's
Yep.
Ushinina's move, seventh move. What does she do?
So now she plays queen to d2.
Okay. Getting ready to castle?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, because Chris had played a6 earlier, she now can play b5. Yeah, and that's what she does. The a6 supports the b pawn. Okay. It is now Ushinina's eighth move. How does she continue on move 8?
She does, in fact, castle queenside.
Okay. All right. Now, Carissa could, in this position, play the bishop to b7. That's a possibility.
That's what she does.
Yeah, I'm sorry, she does that.
she
What am I saying? Of course she does that. Yes. I have it right on my script here. And what is it, by the way, what is her threat? Does she have a threat? By playing the bishop to b7, is there a threat of advancing this pawn to b4, attacks the knight, which is here defending the pawn on e4?
Right.
So that has to be a threat. Playing the bishop to b7 with the threat of b4,
Yep.
attacking the knight. Okay. So what did Ushinina do after bishop b7?
So she defends the e pawn by playing f3.
Okay. All right. So now that pawn on e4 is defended.
Yeah.
All right. Now, does Carissa advance the pawn to b4? No, she doesn't do that. What she does is she plays her pawn on e7 to e6. Okay. This is almost like there's an opening or defense known as the hippopotamus. I mean, when you get, if the pawns are like this, if we actually,
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
yeah. I mean, it's a quasi, not quite a full hippopotamus defense yet.
Yeah.
But we have, look at all the pawns on this rank here. Yeah.
Right. Actually, I think if this
The
pawn,
pawn had gone
if this
there,
pawn were here and she brought the knight, that would be a full-fledged hippopotamus.
Then it would be a full.
Which she has played before. I know that.
Oh, she's played the.
She's played a hippopotamus before.
Hippopotamus defense. Yeah. Okay. All right, but what she did was play actually e6.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Ushinina's now
10th move.
10th move. Okay.
Yeah. She takes
Right.
the g knight goes to e2.
Okay. Well,
Just continuing development.
well, what Carissa does, her knight on G8 can mirror what actually Ushina did
yeah.
and played to E7.
Yeah.
So we have the knight on E7.
So again, yeah, you're right. If
Yeah.
if this pawn were back one, we'd say that's
This would be
that'd be
hippopotamus.
hippopotamus.
Yeah, but unfortunately it's at B5. Yeah. All right. So it is now Ushinina's 11th move. Now, what is she? How does she continue? What's her play?
So she plays knight to G3,
Right.
which opens up this line for the bishop.
Okay. Now I'm going to play Carissa's next move, and you're going to read her comment on
Okay.
this. Okay. Carissa now plays C5, the pawn to C5. What does she say?
She says, finally, a strike against White's big center.
Yeah. All right. That is it. That is it. Yes.
Right, so she's hitting this pawn with this and with this.
That's right.
bishop.
Okay. So after C5, all right. So what did Ushinina do now after C5? It's her 12th move.
Yeah.
So what does she do in response?
This is pretty a wild
Look at
looking
this.
position.
Look at the pawns
Five
on the
pawns
fourth
on the fourth
rank.
rank. It's
Yeah, that's
not something you typically see.
that is a very unusual position to see. Okay, F4. And why don't you read what she
and
says here?
Carissa says, here was the first think of the game in a critical position. She said, I spent 10 minutes here.
On this move?
Apparently on her next move.
On
yeah.
her next move. On her
She
next
says,
move.
and then more than 40 minutes on the next move.
Wow.
She says the point of F4 is to gain control of the G5 square.
Okay.
She says now White is threatening H5 to rip open the king side.
Wow. Okay. All right. It's now Carissa's move.
Yeah.
Okay. What she plays here is advance the B pawn. The
Very
B,
aggressive, yeah.
Yes. D4. Attacks the knight. Okay.
And she said it seems reasonable to kick back the knight.
Aha. Now the big question is, with the knight under attack, where is that knight retreating to?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Carissa said she thought Anna was going to play it to E2,
But she didn't?
which was probably
What?
the
Yeah.
best. Instead, she plays it back to B1.
Okay.
So, I mean, right now, that knight's got, no place to go.
Now, why don't you read her? She has a comment on this about bringing the knight back to B1.
She said she thought Anna's intent was to provide the king with a bit more shelter against the queen coming to A5.
So she was worried about the queen A5?
Yeah, but she says, however, the knight is a bit misplaced now.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, it's got no place to move.
So-
It's right back where it started from.
So it was better actually going back to
Probably going to E2.
And as she points out, that's what she was expecting it. Carissa was expecting.
That's what she was
She
expecting.
was
yeah.
expecting the knight to go back to E2, but it went to B1 instead. All right. So it is now Carissa's move, and what does she? Well, now is this where she thought a long time on the next
I
move?
guess she-
40. She mentioned 40 minutes. Spending
Yeah,
40.
so I guess that would, yes.
So I think maybe she's spending a lot of time on her
That's-
next move.
That's mind-blowing.
All right.
40 minutes on a single move.
Okay. And I'm gonna have you read her. I'm gonna make the move, and you're gonna read. I'm gonna have you read her commentary.
Read the beginning of the commentary because
All right.
she gives a lot of analysis. So what she was thinking about was playing queen to A5.
Yes.
And
Queen
she
A-
said
Yep.
it was tempting, but black must find a very difficult move in order to make it work. So
Yeah.
she
Right.
looked at that for 40 minutes, which is mind-blowing, and couldn't figure out how to make it work, so that's not what she played.
She didn't. So she didn't play Queen A5.
No,
She played Queen C7
queen
instead.
C7, but
Queen C7.
But man,
and she
to
has
spend
she has
40
lengthy analysis. on
40
this.
moves,
Yes,
40
right.
minutes.
Right. Exactly. All right.
I've never come close to that.
No, that is spending 40 minutes on one move. That's
And she said she also had thought about playing
bring in-
knight to C6.
this knight on E7 to C6.
Was another.
Okay.
So she was.
She analyzed several moves.
She was looking at 3 different moves, and
Yeah. And spent a lot of
this is
time
what she went with.
on this move right
Yep,
here.
yep.
Queen C7.
this is
Unbelievable.
very complicated position.
Absolutely.
This is a mess.
Yeah,
Nothing's
okay.
come off the board yet.
Unbelievable.
We're
All
14
right.
moves in. Nothing's come off the board.
So it's Ushinina's now 14th move. What is she going to do? What is she doing here in this for move 14?
So she plays H5 to try and rip open the king side.
Right. Okay. All right.
So they're both playing
Yeah.
very aggressively.
Exactly. Okay. Chris's move.
Yeah.
She now castles, not kingside.
Right, yeah.
She's not gonna castle into this mess.
Right.
She's gonna castle queenside. That's what she does. Now, why don't you read actually her
So she
commentary?
said, in the end, after nearly an hour, I settled on this setup. Black's king gets out of the danger zone,
Right.
and the position is solid.
Right. By being over here, she's safer over here.
Yep.
She would be really in danger castling on this.
Yeah.
That would be a very, very inferior position to have. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, it is now Ushinina's move. Move 15. What does she do here?
This is the first capture of the game. Pawn takes pawn on g6.
All right. Okay. And Carissa responds. Now, there's two ways to take back. We can take it with the pawn.
Yep.
But she played the better move.
Yep.
She took back. She recaptured. Knight takes g6. So that was much better than taking with the pawn. All right. This now Ushinina's actually 16th move. How does she continue?
All right, so Carissa has extensive comments on this. She plays it f5.
Right.
Again, very, very aggressive.
Attacks the knight, for one thing. Okay. Now, we know players, if we presented this position to club members, they many of them would retreat that night. I mean, I know if I showed this to a number of players at the club, there'd be a number of them who would say, I got to save this knight and maybe just bring it back maybe to e7 or bring it back to f8.
That would be my instinct.
Yes, right. However, Carissa didn't do that. She left that knight right there under attack.
But I'll tell you her comment before you show her move.
Okay.
'Cause she said that f5, she said, weakens white's grip on the dark squares immeasurably.
Okay, she has relinquished control of some of those dark squares, yes?
And she says, and my pieces come into play surprisingly quickly.
Right.
She says, though the engine thinks white makes the critical mistake 2 moves later, from a human perspective, I would evaluate this as the moment where white lost the game.
Really, with this, so
Yeah.
she's actually pinpointing this move is where she is losing the game now.
Yep, so she's saying that one of the things is she's weakening this diagonal here.
Right, yeah.
You've got the queen and the king on this diagonal, and this has just weakened it.
So she had to keep the pawn on f4. Yeah.
And she's saying, it's especially bad because this king can't, if
The king has no move. Yeah,
this
right.
king can't slide over to b1.
Only because that knight had retreated to b1.
Yeah.
Depriving the king of an escape square. All right.
So she says, white's center is clearly flimsy, and the bishop
Right.
isn't even developed yet, but thanks to white's space advantage, she is not worse either
Okay.
at this point. Oh,
All right.
wait, I'm sorry, that's if we'd gone through the analysis.
Oh, okay.
So ignore that.
Okay. So it is okay. So Ushinina played f5.
Right.
It's Carissa's move.
Right.
She now doesn't retreat that
ignores
knight.
the attack, yeah.
She now plays c. The c pawn takes on d4.
So counterattacking.
Counterattacking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Ushinina doesn't have much of a choice. She has a bishop under attack, so she recaptures.
Yep.
Okay. Now again, Carissa now realizes, okay, now with this knight on attack, she has to move that knight to save it, and she is able to bring it knight on g, the g file, to e5 as a blocker. It blocks the attack on the bishop on g7. Now, is there a threat? That actually, Carissa actually points out in her note, there's a threat here.
Right.
What does she say in her commentary is being threatened?
She's saying she's threatening to bring the knight to f3.
With a double attack it's attacking the queen and the bishop, but this actually moving the knight to f3 unleashes an attack on this bishop. So we have a double attack on those two pieces. Yeah.
So that's the threat.
That's the threat. The threat is actually to win with a piece. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Ushinina cannot allow that. Cannot allow that knight to go to s3, and forking the queen and the bishop. So what does Ushinina do?
So she plays bishop b2, which Carissa says it's the most natural, but she says unfortunately it loses by force, and she gives lengthy analysis showing that probably pawn takes the pawn on e6 would have been best. So she plays this to stop the knight from coming here, and as she says, it looks kind of natural, but
right, okay,
but it's going to be Carissa's going to show why it's a problem.
Okay, all right, it's Carissa's move, her 16th move, and now she plays the knight on d7 to c5.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to have you read her commentary
Yeah.
on this move.
So she says now there's a double threat, which is the knight on E comes to D3
Right?
with check.
And by moving with this check, we actually are now attacking this bishop now, which is now no longer defended by the queen because the knight blocks it.
Right.
And we're threatening actually to take off the bishop for one thing.
Right,
But as-
and as we had seen, like if
yes.
if she
Oh, yes.
takes, the next move is going to be checkmate.
This is checkmate.
That's gonna be checkmate.
She cannot take the knight on D3
Yep.
because there will be checkmate here.
Yep.
So the threat is, okay, where's that knight here? Right over here on E5, right?
Yep.
Right. What's this here?
Yes,
Okay, knights are
sorry.
here.
Sorry,
Okay.
yep.
So she played, okay, so the bishop went back to E2, and we have knight C5.
Knight
Okay.
C- yeah, knight C5.
This is the position.
Yep.
Okay. It is now white's move, is it not? No, the queen is, no, we have to make a white move, right?
Yep.
Okay, what was the move that was played here?
So queen E3, 19th
All right,
move.
I'll have you play queen E3. Okay, queen E3 is what was played. And Carissa says on this note, not much else white can do here.
Right.
All right, so the queen had to stop that threat of knight F3. All right, now here is where Carissa now plays bishop F6.
Yeah.
Now, we have it on our board. Our viewers at home can see it. Can our viewers at home see what black's threat is? By playing bishop F6,
Yep.
our viewers, take a look at this position and tell Dave and me what you think what black's threat is here.
Yeah, it's a nasty threat.
It's a nasty threat. Well, the time has run out. The threat is what? To go here, skewering the queen,
Yep.
and the queen is going to be lost.
Yeah.
Because the king is right behind it.
Pinned to the king. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pinning. There's a pin there. So because of that threat of bishop G5, what does Ushanina do here? Yeah, can't allow that.
So she captures the pawn on H6. So
Right.
the bishop doesn't have a defender.
There's no- yeah, the pawn would have defended that bishop
Yeah.
going to G5. But now after rook takes H6, now, does Carissa take back this rook on H6? No, she doesn't do that. She has a better move. This knight on the E file goes to D3 check. Okay.
The threat we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. It goes check. And then that has to be taken off. I mean,
Yeah.
it's taken off how? This way. Bishop takes D3.
D3, yeah.
Okay. Now, Carissa takes bishop, captures the bishop on D4. Bishop takes D4. Okay. All right. And what does Ushanina do now? It's her move.
So she's going to play queen to G5, but Carissa was saying that
Well, she has a note on this,
the
right?
best
What
you know,
she
the
should-
best she could have done was to
Take the bishop?
take the
Queen
bishop
takes
and allow Carissa to get the rook.
I see. So,
It's not something you want to do, but it was the best chance.
so this is according to Chris's analysis. Ushanina was better off taking and giving up the
exchange,
Giving
yeah.
up the exchange.
But
Yeah.
instead Anna plays queen G5.
All right. Okay. All right. It is now Carissa's 22nd move,
Yep.
and in this position, she advances the pawn to B3. Ooh, look at this!
Yeah.
A threat of taking here on this, and threatening the queen a pawn here.
Yes.
If that pawn on A2 is taken, yeah.
And she says it's a very pleasing position. All of black's pieces are working together in perfect harmony, and white is falling apart.
Wow. Okay.
So she gave a lot of analysis. She showed how there's all kinds of things white could try here, and how she analyzes how none of them work.
Right. And by the way, we should let our viewers know, and you pointed this out to me, that this game that we're presenting to our viewers is going to be published. I think you said a new
I
in
think,
chess.
yeah, she submitted it to New in Chess. So I
So this
assume
game
that,
she submitted actually to a publication called New in Chess.
Right.
And that will be several months. That'll be a number of months before
probably the next issue,
Yeah.
whenever that is.
And
yeah.
and this is very extensive analysis.
Yeah.
She might have spent more hours analyzing this than
Yeah,
actually
right.
the playing the game
Right,
at the Olympiad.
right.
But again, anybody interested in that maybe can Google New in
New in
Chess.
Chess magazine,
New in
yep.
It's a magazine, right?
Yep.
Okay. So Carissa now, again,
So-
after B3.
So Anna plays bishop to c4, and, you know, like I say, Carissa has analysis showing how
right.
there's lots of other choices, but they all fail.
Okay. But of course, by playing the bishop to c4, this rook now is attacking this bishop.
Sure, yeah.
So the bishop on d4 is threatened. So Carissa has to save it. So what she does, she plays the bishop now to e5. Now, what is her threat?
Well, she's threatening the knight on
Now
g3.
she's threatening an undefended knight.
Yep.
So her knight was under attack. She retreats it to e5, but in turn is attacking the knight on g3. Okay. So now what does Anna Ushanina do now?
So she takes the rook on h8.
Okay, which forces now this rook to be taken. Now she's not going to take it with the bishop. She wants this bishop to stay here with the attacker. She just simply takes back with the rook. Rook takes h8. All right. So
And Carissa's comment here is that
she has a comment.
says,
Yeah.
she says there's too many threats to parry. She says e4 falls if the knight moves. So if this knight moves,
Right.
this pawn's going to drop. And she mentions how d5 is coming.
Right.
And the point of that is, you know, d5 here,
Right.
and the bishop
Ooh,
is here
wow.
because the queen will be guarding it.
Guarding it. Right.
So she's just pointing out there's too many threats
Right.
for black to deal with right now, for white to deal with.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So it is
so again,
now.
there's nothing she can really do. She gets rid of that pawn.
It takes
That was
b3.
threatening to queen.
Okay. Well,
now-
Carissa says, okay, bishop takes the knight on g3.
Yep.
So she takes it.
Free knight.
Free knight. She's
Yep.
like, yeah, she's up. So she's up a piece here, right?
Yep.
Right. Up a full minor piece.
Yeah.
On
And
a
so
bishop.
now finally, Anna develops this knight to d2.
So she probably realized when she made that retreat many moves ago,
Yeah.
back to b1, that would cause her big problems like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this got her in big trouble by retreating to b1.
Yeah.
Okay, it is now Chris's move after. No, it's actually
It's Carissa's move. Yep. She plays d5.
she plays d5. Okay, so we have an attack on the bishop here. Okay, so there's not much of a choice. Well, what did Ushanina do now?
She takes on d5.
Okay, and Carissa takes back. E takes d5. Okay, and now what? How does now the bishop's being under
Bishop's
attack?
attacked. Yep. So Anna pulls it back to e2.
Has to retreat it. Remember, they can't take the pawn because the bishop on b7
Yep.
is defending that pawn. So that bishop had to retreat to e2. Now, what Carissa does is play the rook on h8 over the e8 and attacks the bishop on e2.
Again.
Yeah, under attack. There's too much pressure here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what does actually Anna do?
Bishop to f3.
Bishop f3. Okay.
But you can see what's coming here.
Well, what's coming here is on Carissa's next move is actually knight takes b3 check. Okay, wait a minute. Now, the pawn can't take because
Pawn can't
the
take 'cause
pin.
it's pinned, right?
But what is wrong with taking with the
So
knight?
if
Why is that not a good move? Actually, a blunder. Why is
So if
taking with the knight?
the knight were to take, the bishop comes here, it's check, and it attacks
It wins the queen.
Wins the queen.
So that's why that is poison. That is a
Yeah.
poison pawn to take.
Poison knight.
Okay, so so it would actually on this move here.
So the
would
only
forfeit-
choice she has, she's
is the
got
move. Yeah, exactly. All right, and now what she does now, she's not going to take. She's not going to take here. That would be idiotic. Instead, she's got a stronger move.
Yep.
Bishop f4 attacks the queen, but also attacks the knight twice now.
Right.
Going to win another piece.
So once the queen moves away, she's going to win another piece
She'll win another piece.
with
yeah.
check.
Right,
It's
exactly.
all over. So Anna
And-
resigned here.
And why don't you read her final commentary?
And so she said, with this win and a very nice endgame grind by Begim, on our top board, our team won 2.5 to 1.5.
Right.
And set ourselves up nicely for a final round on board one against Kazakhstan. She says, ultimately, we drew our last match to take home a team bronze. I won my last game and managed to also secure a gold on board two.
Yeah.
So, one thing we're pretty certain of, we tried to confirm it with Carissa, but we didn't get a reply. But
Yes.
as far as we know, this is the highest performance rating for any tournament she's ever had. Because would she have nine wins and 2 draws?
9 wins and 2 draws. She was
Against world-class
Yes.
competition. She's now the highest-rated woman in the U.S., highest-rated FIDE,
Right.
highest FIDE rating of any woman in the U.S. So she's actually higher than Irina now.
Okay.
And Irina's the grandmaster.
Right. Irina Krush, which is the correct way to pronounce her name, Krush, not
Krush?
Krush. It's
Krush,
Krush.
okay.
She was born Irina Krush in Ukraine.
Okay.
But Irina actually is the only female player who's a grandmaster in this country.
Yep.
All the other members of the team are international masters.
Yeah.
Carissa, Alice Lee, and even Toki Janova, and who's the reserve player I mentioned? Anna Zatonsky.
Anna Zatonsky, yeah.
Anna Zatonsky, who was she was also a former women's world champion.
Right. No.
No, she was never.
No.
I'm sorry. She was a U.S. women's champion. Yes, right. She was a U.S. women's champion. I take that back.
Right.
U.S. women's champion, and she was the reserve player.
Yep.
Right. But they're all international masters.
Yep.
Irina Krush is the only grandmaster among the female players.
Right.
And she's an 8-time U.S. women's champion. She's won it 8 times.
Yep.
Now, Carissa's won it again twice.
Twice.
And she's going now for a 3rd time.
Right.
We hope she can win
Yep.
and retain her title. Yeah, exactly.
And she has 1 grandmaster norm, so she's on her way
Right, exactly.
to gaining the title.
Yeah.
And
by
if
the
she
way-
does,
Yeah.
she gets $100,000 from Jeannie
Oh, yes.
Siegelfield.
Yes. In fact, you visited St. Louis a couple of years ago, did you not?
Yep.
And you met Rex Singfield and his wife. You didn't meet his wife,
No, I
Jean.
didn't, no.
Okay. But his wife, Jean Cairns, they've offered actually to any female player, that becomes a grandmaster?
U.S.
U.S. player, a female player, they will award $100,000 to that player.
Yeah.
Now, Irina Krush, who gained that title, she was surprised when they gave her a check because she thought it only applied to future
Right.
female players, but no, they very generously gave her.
$100,000,
They gave her a check for $100,000.
Since she's already achieved
They already achieved that.
grandmaster title.
Okay. Now, what was I going to say? With the time remaining, we have a few minutes. We can talk about the U.S. Women's Champion coming up, which is going to be in St. Louis. It's going to start. It's going to start on the 9th, October 9th, which is this Friday. Okay. And again, Carissa actually will be defending her title. Do you know some of the other players will be there? Irina, I know.
I'm sure Irina will be. Anna
Yeah.
Zatonsky,
Right.
Alice Lee.
Alice Lee. Oh, by the way, Alice Lee was actually the second. If I'm not mistaken, she was the 2nd youngest female player to be awarded the international master title. I am.
Okay.
I don't know. In fact, I don't know if Carissa was the youngest, but Alice Lee
Alice,
is
I
listed.
think got it earlier than Carissa did.
Okay. Now, can we, with a few minutes remaining, can we just get a little blurb about the club championship? Okay. The Watch
That's
Chess
gonna
Club
be
Championship.
painful.
Well, we have actually 2 rounds left in the club championship.
Yeah.
Round 6 is coming up.
Yeah.
On this coming Wednesday, and the following Wednesday is the final round.
Right.
But in the lead, we have a clear leader
Yeah.
of Mike Urbonis, who's in the lead, and in clear 2nd place, right behind him. Urbonis has 4.5 points out of. No, he's actually five.
On 5.
No, he has actually
There's been 5 rounds.
4. Yeah, so he's played. He's won. He has 4.5 points out of 5. Yeah, and actually yes, and Michael David, I believe, is actually at 4 as a 3.
I think he has 4.
4. Yeah, I think he has 4. Yeah. Michael David is clear and there's somebody clear 3rd. Who is that now that we're talking about? I should not.
I don't know.
Yeah, you should know.
Yeah, from Gardner, the young guy.
Leo Maserati.
Leo Maserati.
Leo Maserati. Yeah. So we actually have a clear right now. Clear first place now, leading is actually Mike Urbonis, and 2nd place is Michael David,
Right.
and 3rd place Leo Maserati. So it should be a very exciting third.
Well, last week was very exciting because I was playing the leader
Yes,
and I was winning
you were doing that. Okay.
and I was ahead on time and I ended up losing. So,
All right. Okay.
so Mike David was cheering for me
Right.
because if I had won, then I think Mike David would be in first. Yeah, he would be in first
Yeah.
place
All
right now.
Okay. All right.
By himself.
All right. Now we still have time left.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the Olympiads. As I
Okay.
mentioned to you, the first official Olympiad was London, 1927. Now, how did the U.S. teams do back then, during the 1920s? Well, the U.S. teams did compete in the Olympiad. They didn't win. I don't think they competed in London in 1920, which is surprising. I don't think they were there. They didn't compete. But in 1931, they won their first Olympiad. It was in Prague, Czechoslovakia. They had 19 teams, and the U.S. won that
Really?
that Olympiad in 1931.
Really?
And then 2 years later, again, these Olympiads are held every 2 years. In 1933, it was held in Folkestone, England. Wherever that is in England, Folkestone, the U.S. team won again.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and but the number of teams dropped from 19 to 15. So a number of the teams, some of the teams that played in 1931 didn't show up 2 years later. And then 2 years after that, in 1935 in Warsaw, Poland, the U.S. team won again. But it was back up to 20 teams in Warsaw, Poland in 1935.
I guess one thing we could mention, you mentioned how the Soviet Union dominated for so long.
Yes, they did.
Right now,
Yeah.
Russia
Yeah.
is banned from participating
Yes.
because of the invasion of Ukraine.
Yes.
So both Russia and
Belarus. Those two
Belarus.
countries are not allowed. Yes.
And they did take a vote
Yes.
about whether they should be reinstated. And
Right.
one interesting thing is that
Yes.
when Magnus Carlsen won an award, FIDE was giving out awards for the 100th anniversary. One of the awards they gave was the best player of the last 100 years. They gave it to Magnus.
But he thought it should go to Kasparov.
Magnus said
Yes.
he's always considered Garry Kasparov to be a better player, and
Right.
so Magnus said, I think Gary's the one who should be up here. He said if Gary was up here,
Yeah.
Gary would be advising you all to not allow
Not to reinstate.
Russia. So I'm going to say it for him.
Yeah.
I'm going to say don't reinstate Russia, and they did take a vote, and Russia was not reinstated.
Okay.
So Russia's not allowed to compete in international competition still.
Right. As a team.
As a team.
However, Russian players can compete, but they can never play under their flag.
Right.
The Russian flag can never be displayed in any FIDE-rated tournament. Yeah.
Right.
What they play is under the FIDE flag. FIDE has its own flag.
Yep.
So any Russian or Belarusian player must play, if they're going to compete in any tournament as an individual, using the FIDE flag. Yeah. Okay. But again, the USA really dominated the 1930s.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
they were very active. But again, now you know how many unofficial Olympiads there have been? 3. I mentioned the one in Paris, 1924.
Okay.
And then the one in Budapest, 2 years later.
Okay.
There were 2 back-to-back,
Yep.
1924 and 1926, unofficial. Yeah, because after FIDE was established, they didn't have their first official until 1927.
Okay.
But in 1936 was the 3rd and last unofficial Olympiad. That was in Munich, Germany, and they had 21 teams. And do you think Germany won? It was held actually in Germany, in Munich. No, Hungary won. So Hungary was a very dominant power back then.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So anyways, we hope our Chess Chat viewers enjoyed the game that Dave and I presented to you. A gold medal on board 2 by Carissa Yip, our own Watch Youth Chess Club champion, winning a gold medal at the 45th Chess Olympiad. We hope you stay tuned for the next edition of Chess Chat.